This is the Dusoma Virtual AI Candidate and Anti-Fascism Statement. We're talking about a strategy to win the election for marginalized people in New Mexico. We ask that you watch the first video where we left off, froze the project for safety reasons. Today we are on pause in terms of endorsements and recommendations due to needing more data, and Marla.AI helped us see gaps. Next steps, like we're saying, we need further review. We need more data and specific policy positions. Catherine, that's me with the Dusoma Foundation. I'm working on creating the virtual candidate, statistically looking at algorithms on positions that can win. So how do we choose a candidate? Voting based on policy positions and voting based on character. What we're looking at with AI is only the first point, the policy positions, and getting clarity on that. And then, but we also recommend that when you're looking at who to vote for, as we said in the first video, there's other things to consider. Seeing the candidates, watching them speak, talking to your friends and peers. Okay, audience for this video is the candidates themselves, activists and advocates, and the people we've been talking to about the election. This educational material was created by the Dusoma Foundation, and we describe ourselves as full stack woke. It can be said that we have a point of view, just as we believe all AI models have a point of view, and so we have information about how we, quote unquote, made Marla in our own image. Okay, the Dusoma Foundation asks, we need specific, updated policy position data. Candidates, if you can, please commit to your positions. Do so through public statements, meeting with groups, and we can make a quiz that we will show you in the Marla AI. Okay, and I know the election is coming up. So we are looking for candidates who are responsive and fast acting. Anybody who does this exercise with us will be very appreciative. We know we're in uncharted territory here, so we understand. But being willing to answer these questions matters to voters and these organizations. We're gravely concerned about recent events and want to know that there is some kind of plan in place. And as somebody once said after the inauguration, as much as we expected the worst, this is worse than we expected. Okay, so here's the crux of it. Local anti-fascism efforts. We're at a moment in American history where we need to know where each candidate stands on recent events. So please provide your anti-fascism statement, a statement that answers the following. Here is our question. This is everyone's question. So if you can, this one simple question, and then you can not do anything else in this video, but if you could just do this one thing. How will your administration ensure that fear, exclusion, or political targeting of any marginalized community never finds a foothold in our city? I'm not going to repeat that because it's a video and you can play it again. Okay, but now let's talk about creating a virtual candidate and address some of these issues that a politician might be concerned about. What if I say this? Then I'm going to lose voters. But we're going to try to take a look at this and parse it out. The core assertion of Marla AI. There's a sentiment going on in our culture that trans has gone too far. And we have a special video about what we call full stack woke at our AI company. And we say queer is the new punk rock. Trans didn't go too far. Woke isn't going too far. And then we're going to break this down into statistics. But the core assertion is all progress for human rights at onset is seen as going too far. It's always accompanied by a backlash. Women cutting their hair short in 1910 was seen as a radical rejection of femininity. Black families moving into white neighborhoods faced redlining, hostility, and white flight. And then LGBT activism triggered all sorts of horrible things. Okay, why do far left liberal candidates lose elections? The word far and far left or far right, and then I'm going to give an example. Okay, the example. I'm giving a talk. I'm a candidate giving a talk. At the end of my talk, I raise my fist, shout 2 words, and I lose 55% of the audience. What are those words? So let me break this down, and let me try to do this in a way that's appropriate and doesn't offend anybody, but we are just looking statistically. And so I was talking to a trans friend and getting their feedback on this project and what we're going to talk about with the spectrum of opinions. And one thing they said is if a candidate says free Palestine to the Santa Fe voters, they'll get 80% of the audience. I did a lot of research, and that's actually not true. So if someone at the end of their talk does raise their fist and says or shouts free Palestine, they have lost 55% of the voters just from that. So why is that number so high? If only 3% of the American population is Jewish, why does a candidate who says that phrase lose 55% of voters in a very liberal city? It's because we have to look at the actual reality of the voters. In Santa Fe, 30% of those voters are Republican, so you lose 30% off the top, and then you lose an additional 20% of moderate voters who think of it as a dog whistle and have a reaction to that phrase. Other topics seen as going too far: support for transgender rights, immigration, and there's many other topics, but let's focus on those 2 and what a candidate ally can say to not lose voters. Okay, let's break down a divisive issue and break it down. Trans women in sports. There are a spectrum of opinions on the subject among liberals, queer community, and within the trans community itself. So this is me, just speaking for me. This is not obviously like the end all be all. It's just our organization looking at this algorithmically, and we're just tired of losing elections. So this is our best shot. Again, I know some people are going to feel like we're selling out, and I appreciate that sentiment. And everybody just needs to do what they think is a winning shot. So that's kind of our opinion. We have a hashtag Find Your Fire for exactly that reason, that we believe there's no one right way. So that's the caveat. Spectrum of opinions on trans women's sports. They go from no restrictions to oppose. And so then there's a couple, little things to throw in, like when trans women athletes transition prepubescently, if you look at the medical information and we understand clinically what happens to those athletes, they really are indistinguishable from their peer athletes. There are people who say, well, absolutely no restrictions at all. Anybody who identifies as a woman can compete in any sport with absolutely no restrictions. And so we'll break down this spectrum. And then obviously there's the opposition. And then some of the opposition, what we want to say is that when they oppose trans women in sports, some people are fully on the side of absolutely no rights, no safety things. I always tell the story about a softball team where a parent accused the pitcher of being a boy on a girls' softball team. The child was taken into a locker room, stripped down, examined by the coach, and I think when we look at like what voters care about, I think we all kind of agree that's not okay. We have a history with coaches abusing their power, and the idea that no children have any rights to privacy, and anybody at any time can accuse anybody of being trans and drag them into a locker room. Again, that's when we're starting to find, like, do you truly oppose any rights for trans people? So again, we're really kind of getting people to kind of get specific on these stances. So how can a candidate be a moderate ally in this example? So then we're talking about this quiz and this rank, and then you would be like an 8 out of 10 ally. So your 8 out of 10 ally on trans positions is, you strongly oppose it, it strongly supports equality and safety, and you can read this slide. Okay. Acknowledging realities of low support. So for those of you who are like, oh, this is awful, but we have to look, and this is our opinion based on the data. We allies tend to think there is more support for this issue than there actually is. The reality is that only 10% of the U.S. population sees trans women as women, full stop. Trans women are women, full stop, only has 10% support. So they believe that trans women, and believe that trans women can participate in any sport without any restrictions. The moderate spectrum, they're one or two steps away from being the term we're going to have to use is a purist, who is a person who is 10 out of 10 on a divisive issue. Today, so this is what we're parsing. A moderate candidate today is not actually moderate. There's someone who supports right issues and left issues, and then we combine them and we say they're moderate. So they could be a gun nut and then pro-gay marriage, and then we average them and we say they're moderate. But this is a way to actually be moderate or allyship, strong allyship, without going all the way. So the Marla.AI quiz would allow an opinion quiz that would help a candidate rank their position on a spectrum for 5 issues, including local priorities. So for candidates, if you're interested, we can show you that quiz. And now let's talk about ICE, and let's apply a second example, separating immigration from ICE raids and getting votes. So this is where education is needed, but innocent people being abducted without warrants. So you do have people in the audience who do not know and understand this is going on. They don't know what's going on in Chicago. They don't know what could happen in Albuquerque. We've been doing some research about Espanola, and it'll make you cry. So, to be aware of and so again, with the whole going too far, let's look at some statistics of people who used to see themselves as anti-immigrant, but do see this as going too far. So what if we had a candidate who is a 5 out of 10 ally, so a mixed, so you're not even an ally really, you're a mixed person on immigration, yet you are 9 out of 10 on anti-ICE raids. So a balanced immigration stance. Again, I know this sounds like we're selling out, but again, we just want to win. I am tired of us losing elections. So this is our best guess. Balanced immigration stance. You support legal immigration and secure borders, but you strongly condemn warrantless ICE raids and family separation. You believe innocent people are being caught up without due process. You call for humane, lawful enforcement that respects rights, and you separate immigration reform from ICE overreach and abuse. We believe at the Dusoma Foundation you can get some votes with that. So Yes, and people feel it's gone too far. Here's some facts and sources that we just whipped up. 54% disapprove of increasing immigration and customs enforcement. I do think that's an old statistic, and I think if we look at this day by day, you're going to see a lot more than that. Also, just kind of looking at the spectrum, what kind of this would break down. And again, what we're saying is that AI can let us get incredibly, incredibly specific and nuanced on issues. So this is a slide you can read, but trans women in sports, everything really, just 5 issues on trans, jails, prisons, healthcare. So again, there's the 10 out of 10 position, what we would call the purist, the 7 out of 10 position, which is what they're saying balanced allyship, but kind of in the allyship zone. Then you get into mixed, which is somebody in the middle, and then you have somebody who's anti-trans. And that's what I just explained. So going on. Conclusion, call to action, more data from candidates about their position. We would love to see immigration and ICE enforcement. What are your views in immigration on the role of ICE? Poverty reduction, LGBTQ rights, bodily autonomy. How do you define body autonomy? Where do you stand on issues ranging from abortion rights to business owners refusing certain services? And I will also say, in conclusion, some candidates are going to say, I don't want to do anything related to the national stage. I want to focus on local issues that I do feel are my jurisdiction and control. I want to focus on, roads and infrastructure. I don't want to get involved in these hot button issues, and that is absolutely okay to say. Again, we just want to know. So anyway, thank you for watching, and more videos soon.